only 18% of the economy is being unleashed by 50% of India's population. So where are India's women?
You're not the only platform focused on this, and every platform pretty much has the same mission and vision.
Why do we need women? I mean, let them stay at home and take care of the kids, Why bother their pretty little heads with finance and things like that?
From a business standpoint, it also seems, are you fragmented?
The adventures of female founders raising money.
You're projecting 8 crores of loss.
Our net cash burn will end up being close to that number. That's exactly right.
Why would any equity investor not look for the right valuation?
We really want to see you succeed also.
When we ask them, you're the brightest and the best people in the country, why do you need a community?
Welcome Divya and Madhura to episode 6 of the BarberShop season 2 Razor's Edge. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming to us, and especially Delhi winters we wanted something super energetic to get the day going, because it's otherwise a very foggy, dull kind of mornings which we struggle with. But welcome. My name is Shantanu Deshpande. Along with running the BarberShop, I am the founder and CEO of Bombay Shaving Company and Bombay. But today's context is we are looking for amazing founders building amazing companies such as yourself. We have around 75 investors who are participating with us. The 4 of us represent them in a way. That list is in front of you. And today we would love to get to know Aspire for Her and your stories in a little more depth, so that we can figure out whether we can work together or not. So welcome and thank you, and I'll hand it over to the others in no particular order.
Hi, I'm Arjun. I'm a board member at Bombay Shaving Company. I work at Reckitt, and the areas that I work on are e-commerce, digital, venture capital, and Greater China. Super delighted to be here. I'm a big supporter of the startup ecosystem in multiple countries, and delighted to always meet founders.
Lovely.
Hi, I'm Ashu Suyash. I'm the founder and CEO of Colosa Ventures. It's a new investments ecosystem for women entrepreneurs. So welcome.
Thank you.
I really feel that women entrepreneurs need fair amount of support across capital, capability, and confidence building. And that's why I gave up a career of over 33 years to set this up, simply because I find powering other businesses a lot more powerful than continuing to run a business or set up one myself. In addition to Colosa, I'm also on the board of Kotak Mahindra Bank and Hindustan Unilever. Delighted to meet with you all today, and delighted to be with the 3 of you.
Phenomenal. So I'm really looking forward to you being here today. Of course, Arjun and Toshan I know for many years, but I'm glad that you're with us today.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Toshan. I'm here as a note taker for Shantanu. He doesn't take notes, so you need some thing to make sure that the minutes of the meeting and so on are captured from an investment standpoint. I used to be with McKinsey for a few years, and now I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of UPL. Love to meet with founders, and cause it just gives me so much joy and learning, and lots of coffee and tea.
Fantastic. So I'll get started. I'm Madhura DasGupta, Sinha, founder and CEO of Aspire for Her. I was a banker for 25 years, and I was with the ANZ Greenlay, Standard Chartered, and IDFC. Joined IDFC before they became a bank, just after RBI gave away the 2 banking licenses. I was employee number 4. And started Aspire for Her on Women's Day 2020, because I was very disappointed with the gender data emanating from India. India is 3rd from the bottom in a list of 146 countries in terms of the Global Gender Gap Index in terms of economic participation of women. I found that to be horrible. As if that was not bad enough, I saw that the percentage of women in the workforce has been declining for the past 15 plus years, from 2005 onwards. And I was seeing the best and the brightest women around me in India, and I thought someone needed to do something about this problem. I thought that someone could be me. That's why Aspire for Her was born.
I'm Divya, Sampath, and Madhura said that she went into banking from, we went to the same campus, so we've known each other since 1994. I spent most of my post-MBA career in technology and consulting, and mostly building businesses within other businesses. So sort of a serial entrepreneur, if you will. And my career, I was very fortunate early in my career to get it jump-started during that whole dot-com boom and bust period. I was part of the team with SIFI and I worked for the CEO. Got to be part of a very exciting world where we went to NASDAQ twice and, did at the time the largest acquisition, India World acquisition in Indian history up to that point. And I was very lucky to have a seat at that table and be part of that process. Since then, I worked for a number of extraordinary companies like Cognizant and Microsoft and ServiceNow. And a couple of years ago, completely coincidentally, I was sort of questioning what do I really want to do with the next 15, 16 years of my career? While I thoroughly enjoyed every job I've done, and I was fortunate to work with amazing people, with amazing companies, and I was learning a lot, I was really starting to think my personal purpose, the three causes that I care deeply about, environment and sustainability, bridging the digital skills divide, because that's the next big inequality thing, and women's issues. And I was starting to think, how do I actually do work that's more aligned to my personal purpose in life? And as I was going through this kind of soul-searching crisis or mid-career crisis or whatever you want to call it, Madhura was starting up Aspire for her. So it was a very, it's been a privilege and an honor to join her on this journey and join actually a whole community of now, 220,000 women and go on this journey, and we're sure we're just getting started. So that's about me.
Welcome, Madhura, Divya. So like we're very happy to have you and would love to get into what the business is about and what you have built over the last couple of years.
Fantastic. So before we start, I think we have a little something for all four of you. And we have two of our young colleagues who are here. So we'd love to hand that over to all of you. And
Sure.
This is what we call a little Entrepre-nari hamper. What is Entrepre-nari? Entrepre-nari is one of the communities that we have built at Aspire for Her. It's one of the 15 communities that we have built. And as the name suggests, it is women entrepreneurs and aspiring women entrepreneurs. So I think you will like some of them at Razor's Edge as well.
Okay.
And we'd love to make that happen. But my young colleagues are here, Aditi and Tanvi, and they would just love to hand over this hamper to you.
Thank you so much. Entrepreneur, I love the name.
Yeah. So, like I said, if you look at slide number 2, which actually talks about the statistics, the gender data, etc., it is sad that half of India's population, more than half of India's population actually now, is contributing to so little of the economy. On one side, we're seeing that, which seems to be an irony of sorts. More women than men are graduating. And somehow that's not translating into economic prosperity for our country, for our society, and for our families. On the other hand, we are seeing institutions and corporates, investors, very, very interested in ESG. And what is ESG? The S in ESG, at the center of that S is DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And somehow the twain is not meeting. So at Aspire for Her, that's what we are trying to do. We are trying to build an ecosystem. We're trying to build a company where organizations, institutions, investors, all of them will also find a space where the true potential for Indian women can be unleashed. We move to the next slide. And this is really at the bottom left-hand corner, we've actually talked about the fact that only 18% of the economy is being unleashed by 50% of India's population. So where are India's women? Companies want them as customers. Universities want to train them. People want to buy from them. Customers want to buy from them. But we're not seeing enough of Indian women, and that is the challenge that we're trying to solve. What we also realize is that McKinsey calls this, and all of you, many of ex-McKinsey guys are here, McKinsey calls this a $1 trillion opportunity as per their Power of Parity report. And to unleash that $1 trillion opportunity, we also feel that there is a huge market potential, and we've tried to talk about the target addressable market here across 3 broad verticals of employment, entrepreneurship, and education, which leads to one of these 2. And that itself is also north of $1 billion. We are trying to address that market to get women into one of these 3 E's. We move forward from here. And now I introduce to you, my pride and privilege to introduce Aspire for Her to you. It is a platform by women for women, of women. We want to add 1 million women to the workforce by 2025. We want to add 10 million women to the workforce by 2030. Does that solve the problem that we've set out to solve? No. It just about scratches the surface of the problem. We're acutely conscious of that. How we are doing this is by using a formula that we formulated, and it's called E cubed is equal to MC cubed. Rather cheekily stolen from the more famous formula.
So, very nice framework. I wanted to understand a few things. One is that in the 4 enablers that you've laid out,
Yes.
how do they work in the sense that what is more important, what is less important? How do you wait and spend time on it? And are you continuously iterating and adjusting this as you learn along?
Absolutely.
That's the
absolutely.
first question. Yes. Second question is, mentorship is in general, a very big and abused word or a abused term. How do you ensure that the mentorship is working? How do you figure out if it is not? How do you have a system in place to make interventions to make sure that it works? Because a lot of times we see in DEI, the female workforce gets assigned mentors, and it is an assigning of mentors, but what happens after that is really the main thing. So how do you maybe quality control it, or how do you work through this? So if you could just double click on these 2 areas, it would really help.
Absolutely. So let me start with the second one.
Yeah.
And you're right that mentorship is a much abused term. What we do is the minute somebody signs up as a mentor to Aspire for, as I said, we don't go out to mentors. Mentors come to us and say, hey, we want to be part of this. They get put up on our website, and we encourage our members to reach out to those mentors where they see a mirror of their life ahead. And so that's the way it works. So there is interest from the mentee side to obviously reach out to the mentors. And we normally keep it very structured. We keep it 2 to 4 sessions, not more than that, of 1 hour each. These are all recorded, not as in recorded, the mentorship sessions are not recorded. The fact that the mentorship session is happening is recorded.
Okay.
And we collect feedback at all points in time, both from the mentor and from the mentee. We use that feedback to obviously also strengthen our mentorship framework. But what we realize is that many folks have found it very transformational. Mentees, mentors also have found it very transformational. But in some cases, the twain hasn't really met. For example, the mentor and the mentee haven't really gotten together well, or they haven't really gotten along very well with each other. In which case, then we assign them another mentor, or maybe we tell the mentor that if it's not working for you, then perhaps you would like another mentee, and that's the way we do it. So one of the things that we also want to do, and why we're seeking capital, is to make the mentorship process more streamlined and to get a little bit of more technology onto the mentorship platform as well.
Okay. So like, for example, you said you have a community of 220,000 women.
Correct, yes.
So how many mentorship sessions do you do
We
in
have
a month?
1,000 plus mentorship sessions so far.
A month,
So,
or
no, this is
total,
till
cumulative,
total.
life
It's a
to date.
very small percentage of people who actually put their hands up for
Yeah.
mentorship. We realize that.
Okay.
So what we try to keep doing is we try to motivate women to also put their hand up and say, hey, I need mentorship, because people don't understand what they need to do. So we do a lot of education on our platform as well to say, hey, this mentor and mentee got together, and this person was selling Madhubani art, and today she's going to NSRCL, and she's become a part of the 10,000 Goldman Sachs Women program. So we keep sharing those success stories as well, so that more and more people put their hand up, they shed their inhibitions and put their hand up saying, we want to avail of mentorship sessions.
We do find that the reach of a one-to-many mentoring session is actually a powerful tool that we hadn't actually realized before we started doing this work. When we talk about mentoring, I think traditionally we've only talked about one-to-one mentoring relationships. We've realized that certainly is a tool that we want to continue to develop, but one-to-many is also a powerful tool. So that's something that we'd like to pick up with you folks at a later stage.
And also inhibitions are a lot less if you're in a group setting, if the mentees are all in a group setting, and we see a lot of that happening. And you had another question on
The
The
relative
weightage of our focus.
relative weightage.
yeah.
It actually depends, Arjun. So basically, it depends on which community we're talking about. And in the next slide, I'm actually going to talk about some of the communities that we have built.
Okay.
And I think you'll get a very clear
Sure.
vision once we go through that.
And you're going to talk about some of your interventions from a learning point of view. I noticed you used learning and not training.
Yes.
And while you cover these, could you also talk about some of the tools you deploy?
Yes.
Because end of the day, thinking about careers, it's also best fit.
It's very intentional learning. I'll keep it short and sweet to start with. It's very intentional learning. It's all about careers. So unless it is meant to lead you to a career option or to a better career option, we'll probably not sort of bring them into our fold. So that's the way we're looking at learning. Moving on to this, your first question about the relative weightage, I'll talk about the 15 odd communities that we have built, at least a sliver of them. And you'll probably get a sense of how we're using the different pillars differently for most of these communities. So among the 15 communities that we have built, we started with women in college, 18 to 25-year-olds, and women who are very confused about career options. And remember, the time that we were starting was just when the pandemic hit. So they were confused, but they were also intellectually very open. That's what we started with, women in college. We then realized that in the student community, we also have to start with girls in school who are probably 14, 15 years old and taking their calls about whether they should write their engineering entrance exam, whether they should do something else. So that's our student community typically. In the community for women professionals, we have early career, mid-career and senior women leaders. We're also running a cohort right now of women on boards, people who are aspiring to get into boards. In terms of other kind of women who are very, very strong pillars of our community is a whole community called Return to Work. We have 25,000 women who have left the workforce. They are wanting to get back, and we want to give them the top. Companies are looking for them, but the twain doesn't meet. So we have this huge community of returnees. We are speaking to 12 corporates today who are very keen on this talent pool and they want to hire from there.
So are you only focused on full-time hires or are you looking at the gig economy as well?
We are looking at the gig economy as well. We are very open to all formats of employment, but we are very sure that we want to create a generation of financially independent women. So therefore, we want to ensure that it's a meaningful career and it's a career that can put dinner on the table.
So just to kind of push you on that dinner on the table, there is a very large set of women in the workforce who leave because they don't see the need anymore for dinner on the table.
Correct.
But there is a mental gap. So don't you think they need equal motivation to do something because you are catering to women of all age groups and across life stages or economic stages?
Yes. Yes, we are economic agnostic, and you're absolutely right, Ashu. This is exactly what we're trying to do. So for all of those women who also feel that the need is not there, the idea of a mindset change model is to tell them that there is a need. And we don't do it in a very in your face and a very blatant kind of a way. So all of these pillars that we use are used very subtly. We found many cases where women probably don't need it economically. Today they don't need it economically. But when they hear the stories on the platform, and I'll talk about the Not Alone community in a bit, so you will get where I'm coming from, it sort of emerges in their mind to say that I should be using my education a little better. I should be doing something. I should be having my own money. The first time when I started Aspire for Her was a very brilliant woman who's my age. She left her job to bring up her child and she wanted to pay some money for her father's treatment. And she just couldn't because she had no money that she could call her own. Okay, she could have gone to the husband and they get along perfectly well. She didn't want to ask her husband for money. And she realized a huge sense of vacuum to say that, my parents have done everything for me and today my father is ill. I cannot financially contribute to his treatment because I do not have money of my own. And that is where we tell women never ever give up. And the right time to tell them that is actually at the start. And that's why 18 to 25-year-olds form a big part of what we'll do and will continue to form a very big part of what we try to do.
There's also this issue, Ashu, and I think it's kind of implied by what you asked and commented, is that we've always had this false idea that it has to be either or. When I have a child, I need to quit my job and give up on my career. Increasingly, I think organizations are of the view and they're very supportive of people, not only just taking maternity and paternity leave, but also people coming back after break. We talked about our return to work community. When we were doing the Women on Boards launch last month, Arundhati Bhattacharya was our keynote speaker, and she was telling this very interesting story about women that she's seen in her bank, where there was this lady who was about to give up on her career because she had a home caregiving crisis and she had to take care of a family member. And she was about to quit her job. And then she realized that she actually had an opportunity to take a sabbatical instead, which is what she ended up doing, and then didn't give up on her career and went on to have a very stellar and successful career. Increasingly, I think from an ecosystem perspective, we want to inspire more people to realize that it doesn't have to be either or.
So some of the other communities that we have, Arjun, includes women in IITs, IIMs, and Premier B schools. And when all 23 IITs students are involved in Aspire for Her. And when we asked them, you're the brightest and the best people in the country, why do you need a community? And they said, every time that we get a job, every time that we get an internship, the boys come and tell us, you got it because of diversity quota. We need a community. This is what happens. So moving on, another interesting community that we have is, of course, Entrepre-naris, because this is not only about employment, it's also about entrepreneurship. We do want to create those job creators and not only job seekers. And a very interesting young woman supports us in Entrepre-naris. Her name is Navya Naveli Nanda. She herself is a young entrepreneur. And we were very happy that she chose to speak about us in the 1000th episode of Kaun Banega Crorepati with her grandfather. The community that we started last year after COVID, in May last year after the brutal second wave. This is a community called Not Alone. It was a life-changing experience, and there, mentorship played a very, very big role. It was a very intense form of mentorship, in fact called it anchoring. Many of these women wanted to just leave everything. They were tired of living because suddenly all responsibilities fell on them. And in fact, one of our anchors, one of our mentors got a message very late in the night one day saying, I just want to give up. I'm going to end it all. And within a few seconds, that message disappeared. And she decided that I can't let it be like this, because she had seen the message, but she could not tell her that she had seen the message. And the next day, we had set up a whole series of resources for all of this, for all the women here. And they had lost their spouses, their parents, and other breadwinners. And we decided that the mental health professional needs to start kicking in. And she made an excuse and said, you need to start talking to the mental health professional. And she made that happen. And today, the same woman, she had 3 job offers. She selected one. She has done that job for about a year now. And she sent me a message sometime back saying, I think I can earn more.
So the 220,000 women, how many of them would be tier 1 cities, and how many?
So about 60% are from urban India, and rest of it from various different parts of India.
Is it urban India or the metros?
Metros, typically the six metros.
In a sense, as a sort of a bootstrapped young startup, we've chosen the low-hanging fruit of metro cities first. It's just easier for us to reach those women and build up certain momentum. But yeah, it's certainly very much part of our ambition to go deeper, wider into
maybe one sort of reflection and a question. I think you've done amazing work, and as you said, only 2 years old. So I think I'm very inspired by the stuff that you have done. From a business standpoint, it also seems, are you fragmented? Because you're doing everything from girls so early to women so late to entrepreneurship to employment to learning to EXO.
Correct.
How do you think of what is core? And the social impact angle is fine, but from how will you monetize all of this? And I think just helpful to understand and not like do so many things but not go deep into it.
So there are actually two lines of revenue that we have, and I'll probably and that's very, very, very focused on that. Or you want to?
I'll start off by answering, I think, the implied question in what Toshan said, which is not just the implied question. The explicit part of the question was, how do we kind of keep ourselves from getting distracted by going in too many directions at once? Absolutely.
And so on.
Absolutely, you're exactly right. So when we think about, for example, a new program or a service, and we do say no more often than we say yes to a new program or a new service or even a new community. We try to use some 3 simple rules of thumb in terms of whether we launch a new community or a new program. The first thing we think about is there a sustainable, substantial market here where we can offer differentiated value as Aspire for Her? Secondly, from an execution capability, is this a capability that we either already have or can easily acquire either ourselves or through a close, sustainable long-term partnership? And thirdly, can we underwrite the initial setup cost by having an anchor customer? And we have to definitely think hard about doing this. We use these rules of thumb and then we say, okay, can we do this for 3 years or more? If not, no matter how attractive the partner is, how great a brand name it is, how much publicity it would get us, we won't do it.
So basically what we're trying to do is create highly engaged communities with a clear economic output. So when a Google comes to us and says, hey, we're looking to hire returning women, we help them put together a program where they will be able to hire those returning women. We will get them 1,000 CVs and we will hand that over to them. That's exactly how we work around Attract. Recruit is we have a full-fledged recruitment engine, a fulfillment engine, and we work with one of our XLRI classmates, in fact, and he has this company which has more than 500 people. He works across 20 different countries for the last 15 years. He helps us with the fulfillment piece and we work on a revenue share model. The third piece is retain, and this is around leadership development, coaching, mentoring of existing women employees in organizations. There are a whole lot of organizations that also seek support in that. But if we see that it marries to our overall theme, then we're happy to help them out with that. These are typically, training, learning, these kind of interventions. And there is one second pillar, which is community building. So we help build and grow communities, and some of the names you see here on the right-hand side are the folks who are sponsors of our various communities. So this is just a little bit about two broad lines of
So
business.
who's your customer? Who do you look at as your customer?
We have actually two, Ashu. One, the organizations that work with us, they are of course our customers. We are 100% B2B as of now. We haven't really monetized any kind of B2C sources of revenue. We want to do that at some point in time, but we really want to get a lot stronger and then do that. The other set of our customers, they're not really our customers, but they are very important part of the ecosystem is our community size.
But
So
I
I
think
think-
to go deeper.
Yes,
So for the organizations, is it a number of people placed into times thing? How does that part work?
Each is different. The first one, the attract piece, I told you about attract, recruit, retain. The attract piece is typically in a retainership model. And they pay us a fixed amount for doing their entire employer branding, positioning them as forward-looking, diversity-friendly employers, and we do that quite effectively. The second piece is what you said, it's success fee-based. And the third one is also, again, based on a sort of a retainer model.
Or it could be a program-specific, campaign-specific model as well.
If you were to take your this year's expected revenue by March,
Yeah.
Can you break that up into, like you're saying 100% B2B, but in this form, what it is?
Yes.
And for, let's say, 2 years down the line, what that revenue will grow to. I'm seeing a chart on revenue growth, but
Right.
how are you looking at building revenue, which is, I think, to the question Toshan was asking on monetization.
Yes, right.
What will it look like in, let's say, FY25?
Right.
Yeah. You want to take that?
Sure, I'll start off and you can obviously add to that. So the first question, Shantanu, is this year we'll probably end up at something like a 56% of our total revenue, which will end up at somewhere just under 4 crores, around 3.76 is what's in our forecast as of now.
Okay.
We'll probably do a little bit better than that, but we're being conservative. About 56% of that 3.76 comes from our community services model this year. I would like to have a strategy for my gender diversity. Aspire for Her should be the partner that first comes to mind. There's a guaranteed market. We've chosen B2B monetization because we have clearly demonstrated value and outcomes allied to the money that people pay us. So it's easier for us to deliver on these services. Why have we not started B2C? A lot of people say, why aren't you monetizing mentoring? Why aren't you monetizing learning? We looked at other people who've done this and we've realized that they went into B2C monetization too early and without having clearly defined sustainable value, which is the primary reason we've not started B2C monetization yet. That's not to say we won't, but we'll get there in a very considered fashion.
I have two questions on
Yes, Arjun.
like completely different ends of the spectrum.
Of course.
So one is the philosophical one.
Yeah.
Let's start with that. The philosophical one is that it's based on what you just said, the last thing that you just said, that is it right for an organization to outsource DEI to another company rather than build that muscle inside the company and start doing all these things? Won't an organization be much more successful if it goes through the pain of figuring this out, or at least getting a framework or getting help in that, and learning how to fish rather than, just going to a fish market and buying the fish.
You're absolutely right.
So that sort of
Why do you think why they're coming to us is your question? Yeah.
And what is the right thing to do? It sort of disturbs me that we have to go and do this in this age. I mean, the stories are heartwarming, really, and I'm so happy to see that they, it goes from despair to very positive outcome. It's just great to see the work that you're doing. But the question is, why can't organizations do this? So and maybe it's a much longer conversation.
It is, but
it
there are
is.
actually two kinds of organizations, and I'll probably start there, and you'll get.
Yeah,
exactly
can I give the other question, which is the
Yes,
other
sure,
end?
sure.
Because
Go ahead, Arjun.
it may be connected or may not be connected, and you will know better than me because you are into the detail.
Sure.
What I'm not understanding till now is how does this? It's the other end of the question, right? How does this convert into a really attractive P&L for you?
Yeah.
So maybe the two are linked, maybe they're not linked, but if you can just
The two are linked in a way. Maybe the second question you can take. The first one, should I take?
They're linked, so I'll kind of try to partially answer both, and of course you can jump in and add more detail. Both great questions, Arjun, and thank you for asking. First of all, we agree with you that you can't outsource your brain, right? But organizations still go out and actually seek additional external help, whether it's business strategy consulting or HR resourcing or IT outsourcing, simply because from a focus perspective. DEI should actually be organically part of every organization's way of operating. It is, we are fortunate at the moment that, and looking into the future a little bit, that we are primarily a B2B monetization model. It helps us to drive a certain amount of predictability in our business. It helps us to maintain our margins at a certain level. Madhura will talk a lot more about how we'll be able to be frugal and sort of manage our levers of cost, so that we're not spending ahead of a visible revenue. And I'll allow Madhura to talk more about that. Both of your questions are related though. The philosophical question is an important one that we should revisit. But Melinda Gates quite famously recently said that for us to reach gender parity at the rate we're going, it's going to take us another 210 years. So again, we can't do this alone. Yeah. We've got to do this together. But everyone in the ecosystem really needs to come together to make that happen.
Right. On the second question, if you can, when you're answering or anything else on this, is helpful to understand, because effectively when you have people as your primary cost structure, I don't know what it is, but like a consulting firm or partnership of people, why do you need so much capital? If your unit economics are what they are, then why do you need the capital? Because in a B2B context, when you get a client, you are going to get funding. That funding, many of it will be advance, and then you are spending on it so you will always be, unless you are loss making on something or you are investing for some other marketing and so on, you will have, maybe it's temporary working capital shortage, but otherwise
we'll come to that, and Divya, maybe you can take that. But before that, I want to just say one more thing to you.
Can you respond to both the questions, keeping this question that I'm going to ask you in mind?
Yes.
Go ahead.
It is about sustainable businesses.
Correct.
You have a really laudable mission, and we really want you to succeed. Having said that, you're not the only platform focused on this.
Correct.
And every platform pretty much has the same mission and vision. I'm keen to understand what's your competitive edge and what are the 2 or 3 main differentiators, because in this space, one alone will not cut it.
I agree with you, yes.
So
and Google or others will tie up with as many as they can.
Nobody
So you won't
will
be
do a tied
the only
model.
one. Exactly.
Nobody will
There's
do a tied
no
model.
downside for them to get.
Of course.
Yes.
They're likely A/B testing.
Yes,
By
absolutely.
taking multiple
You're exactly
and
right.
testing which one will work and then
You're right.
scaling
Yes,
up.
you're exactly right. And in a sense, we welcome that. But anyway, Madhura,
But I
you
wanted
go
to
first.
say one thing to Arjun's first question is that there are actually the DEI internal capability, and why are people not raising it? There are actually 2 kinds of companies in India, 2 broad kinds. One who think that 2 arms and 2 legs are all that you require to do your work. What is DEI? And you'd be because you are. And why do we need women? I mean, let them stay at home and take care of the kids. Why bother their pretty little heads with finance and things like that? There are many companies like that. About 90% of companies right now in India, they're
Really? 90%?
yes, it's changing.
She's right.
And you made the comment that every platform has a similar sort of vision. And we talked about A/B testing and people having multiple partners. And so I'll address a little bit of them one at a time and then let Madhura jump in with a little bit more detail. Why we're raising money is, of course, we could continue to run the business and have a reasonably healthy rate of growth, but we're in a rush to add 1 million women to the workforce by 2025, which means we need to do a few things. We need to seriously beef up our investment in technology. Right now, we're throwing people at the problem a lot more than we should be. And we need to beef up our technology platform to provide one, a far better consumer grade experience to our members, and two, to provide an enterprise grade experience to our corporate partners in terms of back-end data analysis, reporting back, things like that. So that's the technology investment rationale. We're also not doing very much in terms of member acquisition, in terms of proactive marketing and going out and acquiring members. We need to invest a bit more in terms of marketing and going out there. We need to pay our people closer to, if not market competitive rates, at least closer to market competitive rates. We've artificially depressed our people cost by, fortunately, we have very passionate team members, but that's not a sustainable basis for a business to grow. So,
can I ask a question?
Yes, of course, Ashu.
Did you assess other means of funding? Or did you directly say that we're a startup, so let's raise equity?
That's a question that requires a 1-hour answer in terms of all of the exploration that we've done, and we still haven't necessarily concluded what is the long-term strategic right thing to do. At some point we said, okay, analysis paralysis, enough. Let's move ahead with a direction and execute on a strategy that we think will work for the next 2 to 3 years. From a financial valuation standpoint, we would not benefit by raising institutional money this early in our cycle. That's the short and simple answer.
Why not?
Most of the people, most of the VC firms, and obviously Ashu is far more of an expert at this than I am, most of the VC firms who would be interested, and they are interested, if they came in at this stage, would actually demand far too large an equity dilution for the money that we would raise.
What is the ask right now?
Well, look, we have space for about up to 10 crores, which honestly is a little bit more than we need. If we had about $1 million, that would keep us going for slightly more than 2 years in terms of all of our investment.
What's your dilution expectation for this $1 million?
At the 10 crores, we're diluting 20%.
But that's typically what a VC would do, right?
Mostly no. We're kind of, we would expect, and this has been kind of validated. We have a couple of VC members who are mentors on our platform and who we validated this thinking with them. The feeling is that they'd expect a much higher valuation. And
Valuation or dilution?
Dilution.
Sorry, much higher dilution.
Okay.
And would negotiate hard on the valuation and would not necessarily, and would probably force us to make a few sort of exit decisions quite early in our cycle, which would not necessarily be to our benefit.
Yeah,
The interesting question is, the valuation point is also valid, because VCs will, to get into a company, will say, here's a high value, and then force founders to grow into that value and then make all sorts of wrong calls.
Correct.
The counter also while it's counterintuitive, might also be very, very real.
Correct.
Which is an issue for founders.
This is a whole sort of debate discussion.
Right,
again.
but I think there was the issue of grant funding and so on, because of cost. That's
Yeah,
what
that's
people were going with, non-diluted
what I was
capital.
asking.
Sure.
It was not only grant, it's also advance. I mean, if you have long-term partners, that the IT industry thrives on it, right?
Yes.
Which is why, it well,
a lot
so I
of our
won't go
long-term
down.
partners
But I
do.
have a question, and I'm, little perplexed. You're really saying that you will be forced to dilute more, right, at the number you're quoting. Why would any equity investor, whether it is angel or VC, not look for the right valuation? Because that's an independent question around dilution. But valuation is valuation, and it is about what a business merits.
And I'm sure you know what happens in that space, which is probably why you're starting Colosa. So,
Say more.
Sorry?
Say more.
No, I'm saying, so she knows what
What
the
does it
space is
take?
all about, right?
The headline, which shall remain, a headline, is the adventures of female founders raising money from venture capital firms. Anyway, that's the headline.
India's gender parity is here, suppose, and
Yes.
other
I was-
countries are here. So somebody who's reached here when there are models like Aspire for Her, how has their financial and investment journey been?
In fact, I want to talk about that a little bit. So one of the slides that we have there is about the US. And we've just chosen the US market because we realize that there's a lot of work happening in this space. And they are several years ahead of us in this space, not just in terms of gender parity, but also the work that's happening over there. So if you look at Chief is a very high-end virtual golf club for women professionals at a certain level.
It's a mentoring.
It's a mentoring come networking come whatever platform. They're a unicorn. They just became a unicorn a few months ago. So the investment.
Are they profitable after so many years?
Some of them are.
Some of them are.
Chief is profitable. See, and the other thing is, Toshan, the data tells us one story, but then I think we've all had enough experience knowing that India's story is not like everybody else's story. So one of the ready comparisons, for example, is China, right? So we have, though there are data gaps in terms of, India's data, about 19% of labor wages in India's GDP being attributed to women with a very low labor rate, labor force participation. If we were to increase that to China has a 44% women's labor rate participation, and women account for 40% of their GDP. If we were to go from the sub 20% to where they are, that would obviously be transformational. I think McKinsey's own statistic says that's another $3 trillion added by 2030.
So on employment, with the client base you work with,
that's actually,
what's the kind of gap? For example, if they tell you I want 100 women, are you able to give them 100 or is there a gap? And what is their total intake? Because that will quantify that with the client base you work. Because here I'm familiar with the industry numbers. I'm more interested in contextualizing it for you in terms of the unmet demand to get a sense of, what the real growth would look like.
We think this year is a little bit of an outlier, Ashu.
Just if I may finish.
no, but
Sorry.
Also on the education piece, education/training, because you are talking about considering the B2C. I'm just interested in knowing, is there real value in it or not? I also feel the entrepreneurship piece, I don't see a monetization angle there. So to my mind, the drivers are not 3 E's. Maybe I've got it wrong, but really the two. And
So a couple of quick checks.
Yes.
One is at a 3.7 crore revenue, your revenue per member is $80 and 200,000 members. That doesn't add up. So that's 1.6 crores.
We'll end up at about 250,000 members at the end of the year.
Even if you multiply that by 80, that's still 2 crores. So you're double of that. So is this a projection for number of members at the end of the year?
Yeah, it is a projection for the number of members.
You're saying 400,000 members will give us $80 a member? $80, yeah.
No. Hold on. So we're talking about this year's number is 145 rupees per member.
Okay, So last year was 80. Okay, so
Last year was
so this is FY23.
This is FY23. So it's 145 rupees this year.
we had about 100,000, 120,000 members last year, and a crore is what we.
It was just under 120,000 members when we closed.
this 145 number is actually trending upwards to 160, 170, which is good.
Yes.
Second is this revenues number. Is this rupees? What is this? 6 crore, 5 crore, 4 crore. We already hit there.
This is actually, sorry, that's a terrible looking graph now that I look at it. We probably looked at it too long. So the revenue numbers are absolutely, it's going from, we did 1.16 crores last year, which was our first full year of operations. This year we're projecting 3.76.
$3.76.
So you already hit your 2028 numbers this year, or is the y-axis
So I know this is a dual sort of two vertical axes. The one on the right side is members, and the one on the left side is revenues. We'll clean that up and send you, disaggregated numbers. But this is just
even the revenue graph.
It's like 1 crore is...
Yeah, we can.
Something is wrong with this.
Something is wrong with it.
It looks, that's because we've got two vertical axes and you're right, the scale is off. But we'll send you the disaggregated data so it
So
looks like.
basically you're saying 145 and 220 or no 250,000 numbers is what makes up that 3.7.
3 crores, yeah.
And the 3 crores is part of the 10.
Yes.
So which means you're seeking the balance 7 from...
And frankly, we don't need the 10.
8 crores the loss on your projections for the next 2 years in terms of P&L. When you say you need 8 crores, you're projecting 8 crores of loss? Or
It'll end up, our net cash burn will end up being close to that number. That's exactly right. The
burn will be that much?
The burn will be that much.
Okay.
And is it because you want to raise 8? I mean,
No,
I can't get my head around
We started
the math.
budget up. We started budget up. We were just the
When you
our
say you
financial
need this
advisor
big-
felt that the 10 crores feels symmetrical. That's why it's 10.
Financial advisors should be left to do what financial advising. Don't get them into strategic fundraising of the business. Very honestly, like I was taken around for a ride by CAs, so don't.
We'd love to learn from your experience, Shantanu.
Yeah.
Awesome. Can we just
Yes.
request
Thank you so much.
You guys can use the same room.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Very
so much.
helpful. Thank you.
All
so
the
much.
very best.
No,
I
thank
think
you. I mean,
much needed.
that's
you.
appreciated.
Thank you, and very, very nice questions and very, very insightful. And you know, this is what we like actually. Where people should be able to understand the problem and provide intelligent
And
insights
challenge
to
us.
You know,
So
And
before you
challenge
guys
our
leave, you're asking for you're putting together a million to 10 crore round at a 40 crore pre. You have commitments of 2.25 from friends and family, which could go to 3 or so. You're saying.
Yep.
Do you have a timeline and time to raise this round? Is it?
We'd like to close the friends and family by December 31st, which looks like it'll be in the bag. Certainly at the 2.25.
Are the SHAs signed?
Yeah, we've sent out draft SSAs. Nobody's signed as yet, but yeah,
So we're looking at like a Jan to Feb kind of timeline for you guys.
that's perfectly fine with us.
Okay.
It's quite inspiring. The problem is very clear. I think first I think they're either the numbers on this page are
Yeah, numbers are not
The
right.
completely the financials are completely
Yeah.
to me they need to really because the gross margin at 86%, B2B advances,
Yeah.
variable cost structures, the tech platform will not cost
And not at all. Not
so
in
much.
today's
So
day and age.
either they are raising money in just preparation for what you said, or to get some benchmark valuation number or something like that. But otherwise, I don't think they need. And if they raise 3 crores, if 8 crores gets them 2 years, then 3 crores is getting them the next 1 year.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they should raise the money given the finances, or the finances don't work.
Yeah. So the way I look at it, I have a point of view from an investor lens and a point of view from the founder lens. When I look at it from the investor lens, I think the valuation for something like this at this stage is high.
Yeah.
Numbers discounted.
Yeah.
Right? And why am I saying it's high? Because they have a long time to go to get a certain critical mass. They're not at the critical mass stage. This kind of valuation, I think 2 years down the line would be much justified. But that's a valuation question. But from an overall business model perspective, they're on the right path, but have they covered all the monetizable pieces? No, but that's pretty typical in a young business, right? You kind of learn as you go along. I also feel there's a huge missed opportunity in leveraging their partners. And that takes me to the founder question.
Yeah.
And that bit is bothering me. See, I like founders that have explored everything before diluting, because to me that shows the kind of ownership of the business. No owner likes to give up stake. Equity, unless you were really pushed to the wall. So I'm kind of wondering, they started out, whether there is that whole desire to be able to cash out a bit. If there is, I'd like to know upfront, as long as then I get a full answer around the commitment. Sans that, because I didn't hear it, my mind is going, why. The related thing when I asked around all funding options, if you have these kind of partners and this is the agenda, it's not about you'll get grants, but even if you do not want grants, you get a 2-year commitment, get the money up front, and you're off to a much better run rate than you are at today. And I'd like some answers around that.
And also, I think it's a 2-year thing upfront, but you can also, there are other financing solutions available.
You can
so
look at that.
why would you?
See, against a committed contract, you can always get revenue.
Some discounting.
For a minute, leave that, because there is an interest cost element. And, for businesses like this, I wouldn't. But I see no reason why not to take payment in advance. And if I would hope that at least it's 1 year at a time. And if it is 1 year, go for it. Negotiate that out.
Yeah.
Correct.
And qualify for every single grant that is available from every single multilateral institution on this earth. Because it's free, right?
Yeah.
And I love entrepreneurs that take everything free. Because that's a good way of seeing, how much of a hold they have over
Shantanu is a
finances.
great example of trying to take everything.
What do you think?
What do you think we are doing? Absolutely, exactly.
We're
Two London
doing
residents
exactly that.
in Delhi.
We're all working for him for free.
Exactly.
Arjun,
And
what are
he's
your
blatant about it.
thoughts? Of course, also I will take age advantage here and say if I'm much younger, so I can ask with complete authority. No, but Arjun, what's your view?
See, I think, just building on the points before. As a person, I love what they're doing. I think the vision is great. I think the mission is noble. And it's something really worth fighting for and putting time behind. As a representative of 76 investors, I've actually left the session with more questions than answers. A lot of them are around business model and P&L, because I think we asked the P&L and the unit P&L question in many different ways. I asked it,
That's what I said.
Toshan asked it, everyone asked it,
All
but
of us asked.
we didn't get a clear response on it. And that actually, as an investor, leaves me quite worried. Because I didn't understand the business model and how the P&L and the margins and all stack up.
It's not even there on the document.
It's not even there on the
not there
document.
I would have loved to see a margin
A
profile.
proper Excel
Yeah.
spreadsheet.
Earlier version had it, which they changed the last
No, but
minute.
No, it's not in both.
It's
I have
not.
both the versions.
I have the earlier one.
Even the
Had
earlier
that
one.
unit economics, not the earlier. I thought it had it.
Yeah, it
but
doesn't clearly have.
it
So
doesn't.
P&L nahi hai.
Nahi hai.
my
There's no
question is
P&L.
that, as a representing the investors,
Yeah.
is that if there's no financial focus at this stage, will it come later on? I'm worried. I'm quite worried about that. I don't understand how it will scale well. That's a question mark. So we'll get the technology, but will it scale well? As you scale, will the economics improve? Will they get worse? Because we don't even have a foundation of economics to start off
Correct.
with. Then I think to Ashu's questions, I didn't understand what is the unfair advantage or the moat that they have.
Yeah.
Because she asked the question, but we didn't
they
get a full
didn't
answer
get
on,
an answer.
on the differentiation. Either we need to have a discussion on how that will be solved, or I don't feel very comfortable with the lack of financial rigor behind the product and the market and all these things working together.
Yeah, even if it's early. I think I was thinking about this from my standpoint, right? Which is to say, if someone were to come and tell me that we are the best gender advisor to take your gender metrics to where you want it to be.
20% better than where it is.
And
or
we are
something like
250
that.
employees at Bombay Shaving Company, of which only 74 are women. We'll take it to 125. Of these 125, we'll retain more. Here are the 15 that we see at risk because of maternity,
The
A, B,
outcomes,
C,
yeah.
D. By the way, we have opportunities for mentorship, sponsorship, etc. We will sit with you once a month. We'll allocate a team of 4 people. Here are our technology solutions, and you please take us on. We cost 10 lakhs a month. For someone like me who runs a loss-making early business, it's still a very valuable proposition. My issue is, I think they're struggling to make the business easy, and good founders struggle to do that because they feel that value is in solving complex problems.
Yeah.
But value is actually in solving one easy problem with minimum headwinds.
Minimum, yeah.
So if you
I have a exactly reverse thought process on this. So not for that. I think in my mind there is a workhorse and there is a show horse. Okay, the show horse is the communities and I'm building this and boards. The workhorse is the proposition for the corporate.
Correct.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, do you have a diagnostic tool which says what are the reasons, and it's an online
Which
tech-driven
is
diagnostic
what I'd
tool.
asked about.
Do you have a recruitment platform which looks at the matching profiles and skill gaps? So to me, that the workhorse has not been focused on enough. There has been, if you look at because the cause and mission is phenomenal, they are very experienced. The stories are all about the individual community member, which is very touching at the heart level. But from a corporate standpoint, is like, how was your experience different from the other platform you're using? I don't know.
The why by me for the customer, when I asked
Yeah.
who's your
Real core
customer.
customer
is-
problem,
Yeah.
how are they really solving for that? Or are they, to the point Arjun was making, that there are some customers who say, हमको तो ये करना ही है, 5 लोग भी कर रहे हैं हमारे लिए, तुम छठे हो, आ जाओ यार, हमारे लिए कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है उसका.
Where do you think we are? Because we like the space,
Yeah.
we like the where we want to go, but we are seeing clear gaps, but we don't know how much time it's going to take. So you're right. Even I am on the no-go for now. Happy to guide, and actually, to be honest, I'm very comfortable committing one more conversation with equity seekers. It might be 4 different people.
Yeah.
In maybe May, where you have covered so it's 6 months. It's enough time. You get the 3 crores. It's enough capital also.
Yeah.
But at that point, here are the 5 things we want to see. Anyways, first, I think Madhura, Divya, thank you so much for coming in. Just the mission with which you are which you are pursuing. I think the mission obsession, that's I think what Ashu's been calling it, is amazing. And to build out a 220,000 member community, to get the kind of customers you've gotten on board, to build a 3.5-4 crore business in your second year, profitable, hustling through COVID. I'm sure the last 2 years would not have been easy. Full kudos to building this out. I think, however, given where we are, right? My conversations with Arjun, Ashu, and Toshan, and they should add to this. I think there are 3-4 things that need to happen before we can make a commitment to seek equity in your business. Okay. Number one is, I think, fundamentally, structurally, the company needs to get to a place where, for example, Divya, I think we are very clear that you guys are doing this together, but you are not in the company yet as a co-founder, and there is a certain amount of discomfort. It's not a if, it's a when. So when that happens, the company becomes a lot more structured. I also think there should be more thought around ESOPs. I think 3% because someone has told you is too small. So structurally, the company needs to be in a place where right now it's kind of distributed equity in a certain way. And by the way, I totally get it. We have given equity to our first razor designer. We gave equity to our first CA because we did not have the cash, or we had put in orders and we didn't have money. And the early, Toshan is a part, first check in Bombay Shaving Company. But the money had not come in yet, so I had given off my savings, and you give off equity for some time, right? So I totally get it, but you need to get to a place where all of this is kind of sorted out, right? That's number one. I think the number 2 thing is just the P&L needs to stack up. Right now, I think there are numbers that are a little bit either dated or there are errors there, but what does the entire P&L look like, line by line? And we all know that this is sometimes a numbers exercise, but it's an important numbers exercise because it's a process. Correct. The answer is not as important as the process. Correct. So for us to get comfort, we want to know what you want to get to. Now, whether you meet it, don't meet it, Arjun's on my board. He sees our P&Ls all the time. Of course, sometimes we hit them, sometimes we don't. But his push to us is put the numbers down, get the bridge right, get a CFO who's able to do it. At your stage, you guys need to know what you're gunning for in 23-24 at a line-by-line level. Right. Which comes to the third point, which is, what is your monetization, both for customers and for members, right? So if it is I think you're starting member first and going towards customers and seeing how it goes there. But an obsession for customers is equally important to say, correct, if I want to be the partner of choice for ESG or for diversity for Amazon in India, I need to have a diagnostic toolkit. I need to have a retention program which has these 4 tech things. I need to have these 10 coaches who will always be available. Here is my cost structure for an Amazon because I have spoken to Amazon and I'm serving them, and this is how it's going to work. And by the way, this is how it looks like for Google, this is how it looks like for an FMCG company. By the way, we have a startup model because founders are keen on this. Here is what we do for Entrepre-naris who are Series B, Series C, whatever your pillars are. But each customer, I think there needs to be a little bit of thinking. We don't need the customers. Right. But we need to know how you will monetize each of those customers, and then this 200,000 becomes $1 million, and this $1 million becomes $2 million, and then how that engagement feeds into this proposition, because the people putting dinner on your tables are your customers. Yes. Right? It is attractive to think about the members because it gives us validation of what we're doing, which is great. But the money comes from the customers. Absolutely. So we feel it's slightly reversed right now, and maybe for the right reasons. But if you're able to get these 3 things right? Structure, P&L, and then customer and member obsession, to be able to put down, okay, here's what we were like, and here's what we want to get to in 3 years. Then we might be in a place where the valuation justifies itself, and institutionally we are ready, and there's quick ability to come into capital, and then you're able to see the money will come in. But if you're structurally not there, you may not be able to hire immediately.
Correct.
You will not know what kind of ESOPs you can give out, stuff like that. So net, we are in a place where right now we want to commit. In fact, the intent to commit is very high, but the question is of timing. So if we are able to get these 3-4 things right, we can commit an equity seeker forum and an episode part 2, maybe 6 months down the line, or at the end of quarter 2 of next year calendar, where we come back and we discuss this again. You should raise the friend and family round, and maybe we will send this opportunity to our 76 investors and say, here is where we were on this. We couldn't commit as a group. But if you guys want to participate in this individually, please go ahead and do it. And I'm fairly certain there'll be enough people who want to do it, including myself. But a representation of all 76, we might find it a little difficult. So I'll just kind of pause here and take questions from and maybe input from you guys if I've synthesized well enough.
Yeah, broadly.
No, but we love more. I mean, this is golden. I've been taking notes, and thank you. This is one thing that we're, again, reflecting on ourselves. We realized that we've been very fortunate in terms of only telling our story to well-wishers and friends up to this point, right? This is almost one of our first few structured investor kind of conversations. And as we go through the conversation, we're kind of realizing the gaps in how we're so close to telling our story that we have blinkers on, right? So this kind of external feedback is helping us to clarify our own thinking.
Product, right, becomes very, very crucial because that product market fit
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
is critical. And what we found is we want to understand the customer proposition,
Yes.
which is the product equivalent.
Yes.
Right.
And also understand how tailored it is to the market, which is the market fit.
Right.
Sector followed by customer. Like a Google would be different from somebody else.
Yes.
So to our mind, when we just talk about PNL and then we talk about your customer proposition, the reason the two are important is one should lead off the other.
Yes.
Otherwise, there is a break.
Yeah.
And what struck us as we heard you is you possibly will have a goldmine from a data perspective.
You do, yes.
What about analytics? Because you might be a great partner to begin to say, well, hey Google, you possibly need X number of data scientists. And then seek that community, because today, if the community is not purpose-led,
We are also benefiting, I think, in a sense, from the fact that the market is so ill-defined that we're creating the market and the
so you have a great opportunity that.
And that's how it's going to be, by the way. You might have 20 customers coming and telling you 20 things which you may not have thought of, even though you're experts in the field.
Right.
And then that will shape
Right.
a lot of the customer obsession. because
Along
it's
with
like,
what is
economic
happening?
output.
Yes.
That's where we will
that's
get
the
into
filter.
it.
Thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if somebody comes and says we want to do a women's smokers community, we will respectfully decline and say,
Unless they're
there's
at
other
ITC or
partners.
something. Which is
No, I mean,
fine.
absolutely. But we're not the partner for you. There'll be other people who can work with you on that. But I will say that, your deeper point is well taken. It is something that we think about. And again, we also need other people to help our thinking on this front.
I think to wrap up, I think
but thank you so
super
much.
keen to stay in touch. I think obviously as a customer, the moment this ends, we would think about how we can work with you, not only for us but also for our indirect field force and sales force and so on and so forth. But I think let's stay in touch, and on these few things, if we can regroup, we would love to see you kind of close your family and friends out, see whether there's institutional interest. This thing will go up. 100% sure that after, by the way, one of the company, I can't name him, but after 4 episodes, one company got a term sheet within 2 weeks of their episode going live.
oh,
Yes, so they're going, and now we are participating with an incoming institutional in that round. So it is very likely that after this goes out, things change and the story goes out. But from our standpoint, I think we'd be very happy to stay in touch. And I think the final thoughts from you guys would be helpful.
No, I think a lot has been said for sure. We really love the mission. I mean, we kept talking about it many times and we've repeated it many times. We really want to see you succeed also.
thank you.
That's something that we all shared in our discussion, that this is something that is so needed in the world that needs to succeed. And I'll add one more which we didn't talk about, but which, as you keep saying, is implied, is that we have no doubt that you'll succeed. So we want to be part of the
High
journey.
level of confidence.
But we, from an investor point of view, we want to get some of these things,
Fair.
ticked out of the way so that we can, be all in with you. So hopefully in 6 months, we should be all in with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Love
much.
that.
Thank you. Thank you so
That's
much.
lovely. Thank
And
you.
well
you
done.
all.
Well done. Well done.
No, it's very brave to step into entrepreneurship. So you guys have.
We also have hampers of our own.
Oh, wow.
Oh, how cool is that?
Oh, I thought you were just like recycling and recycling.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. Thank you.
That's
Madhura,
like a
thank
better
you so much.
utilization,
Yeah.
sustainability focus.
Yeah, I needn't have spent the money on buying this.
You should. Oh, nice. We also have monetization to do. So thank you so much. This
Can
is
we
a big
click a
pleasure.
selfie?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
Come, we can come.
Okay.
We can come on this side.
Maybe
This side, oh.
I'll take it on now.